The morning sky turned black as the alien ships arrived. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his space station and watched the massive vessels block out the sun. Each ship was bigger than any city on Earth. Their dark metal hulls reflected no light and cast shadows across entire continents. Jake had been in space for 15 years, but he had never seen anything like this. The alien fleet numbered in the hundreds. They moved in perfect formation like a swarm of deadly insects. No sound came from them, but their presence filled everyone with fear. Admiral Lisa Parker's voice crackled through the communication system from Earth's main command center. She sounded calm, but Jake could hear the worry in her words. The alien ships had appeared without warning in every major star system that humans had explored. Earth was surrounded. The first message came 30 minutes after the ships arrived. It was broadcast to every radio, television, and computer on Earth and in space. The voice was cold and mechanical, but the words were perfectly clear in every human language. "We are the Dominion. Your species will surrender immediately. You will serve our empire as workers. Any resistance will result in the complete destruction of your world. You have one Earth day to decide." Jake felt his hands shake as he gripped the control panel. Around him, his crew of 20 humans stared at their screens in silence. They were scientists and engineers, not soldiers. Their space station was designed to study asteroids and mine precious metals. They had no weapons except for small tools used to break apart rocks. Down on Earth, panic spread through every city. People ran through the streets while others gathered around television screens to watch the news. The alien ships hung motionless in the sky like giant storm clouds that would never move. Commander Ryan Hayes led Earth's small defense fleet from his command ship. He had 30 vessels under his control, but they were all designed for patrol duties and small conflicts between human colonies. The largest human warship was smaller than the smallest alien craft. Ryan studied the enemy ships through his telescope and felt his heart sink. Their hulls showed no visible weapons, but energy readings suggested they carried power sources beyond human understanding. Each ship could probably destroy an entire planet with ease. Dr. Elena Brooks worked frantically in her laboratory on Earth's moon. She was humanity's leading expert on alien technology, even though no one had ever encountered real aliens before. Her job had been theoretical until today. Now she had to find a way to fight enemies who seemed impossible to defeat. Elena pointed her most powerful scanners at the alien fleet and began collecting data. The ships used energy patterns that human science had only imagined in theory. Their shields were made of something that bent space itself. Their engines created no heat or radiation that humans could detect. The alien ultimatum spread across Earth like wildfire. World leaders held emergency meetings while military commanders calculated odds that everyone knew were hopeless. Earth's entire nuclear arsenal might destroy one alien ship if they were lucky. The enemies had hundreds. Jake watched Earth through his station's main viewing window. The blue and green planet looked so peaceful from space, but he knew that billions of people were looking up at the sky in terror. His own family lived in Kansas. His wife Sarah worked as a teacher, and his 2 children went to school like any normal day until the sky turned dark. Admiral Parker appeared on every screen across the human space network. She wore her dress uniform and stood straight despite the impossible situation. Behind her, the flags of Earth's United Nations hung side by side. She spoke directly to every human in the solar system. "Citizens of Earth and our colonies, we face a challenge unlike any in human history. These beings demand our surrender, but humanity has never bowed to bullies. We will defend our world and our freedom with everything we have. Every ship, every weapon, every person willing to fight will stand together." The words sounded brave, but everyone knew the truth. Humanity's greatest weapons were like stones thrown at giants. The alien ships could probably destroy Earth's entire civilization without taking any damage themselves. Ryan Hayes received orders to attack the alien fleet. He knew it was suicide, but he also knew that humans had to try. His ships moved into formation and approached the nearest enemy vessel. The alien ship was so large that Ryan's entire fleet could have fit inside one of its docking bays. The battle lasted less than 10 minutes. Human missiles exploded harmlessly against alien shields while beams of purple energy cut through human ships like they were made of paper. Ryan watched his friends die one by one as their vessels were turned into floating debris. But something strange happened in those final moments. Ryan noticed that the alien shields flickered for just a second when hit by multiple attacks at the same time. It was a tiny weakness, but it was something. He transmitted this information to Admiral Parker just before his own ship was destroyed. Dr. Brooks detected the same thing from her moon laboratory. The alien defenses were incredibly strong, but they were not perfect. She began working on calculations that might exploit this small flaw. It would take time that humanity might not have, but it was their only hope. Jake Morrison and his crew watched the battle from their station. They saw brave men and women die fighting impossible odds. When it was over, Jake made a decision that would change his life forever. He would not surrender to the aliens. He would not let his family become slaves. The alien fleet completed their demonstration of power and waited for humanity's response. Earth had one day to decide between slavery and extinction, but Jake and millions of other humans were already making a different choice. They would find a way to fight back no matter how long it took or how many would die trying. As night fell across Earth, the alien ships continued their silent watch. But in laboratories and military bases around the world, humans were already planning their resistance. The Dominion had made one critical mistake. They thought that showing overwhelming force would break human spirits. Instead, it only made humanity more determined to be free. 3 months had passed since the aliens conquered Earth. The great cities lay in ruins and smoke still rose from the wreckage of human civilization. Giant alien machines crawled through the streets like mechanical spiders, tearing down buildings and constructing new structures that hurt human eyes to look at. Captain Jake Morrison crouched in the basement of a destroyed library in what used to be Detroit. Around him, 15 other humans cleaned weapons and studied maps by candlelight. They called themselves the Great Lakes Resistance, but they were just ordinary people who refused to give up. The Dominion had kept their promise about enslaving humanity. Millions of people worked in massive factories that the aliens built in every major city. The workers made strange devices that no human understood, while alien guards with insect-like faces watched them with glowing red eyes. Jake had escaped from one of those factories after 2 weeks of captivity. The aliens called their soldiers Cathera, and they stood 7 feet tall with 4 arms and skin like black metal. They carried weapons that could turn a human into ash with one shot, but they were not as smart as they looked. Dr. Elena Brooks had vanished during the first week of occupation. Most people thought she was dead, but Jake knew better. Elena was too stubborn to die and too smart to get caught. She was somewhere underground, probably building weapons that could hurt the aliens. Lieutenant Amy Foster moved through the ruins of Chicago like a ghost. She had been a Marine sniper before the invasion, and now she used those skills to hunt alien patrols. Her rifle was modified with parts stolen from alien equipment, and it could punch holes through Cathera armor from half a mile away. Amy had killed 43 alien soldiers in the past month. Each time she struck, she left a message painted on nearby walls in bright red letters. Humans do not kneel. The aliens had put a price on her head, but she kept hunting them anyway. The resistance groups across Earth stayed in contact through an old radio network that the aliens had not discovered yet. Jake listened to reports from cells in London, Tokyo, Moscow, and dozens of other cities. Everywhere the story was the same. Humans were fighting back despite hopeless odds. Commander Ryan Hayes was supposed to be dead, but Jake had received coded messages that suggested otherwise. Someone with Ryan's tactical knowledge was organizing attacks on alien supply convoys in the Pacific Northwest. The attacks were too well planned to be random, and they all bore Ryan's signature style. Deep beneath New York City, Dr. Elena Brooks worked in a laboratory that she had built in abandoned subway tunnels. She had gathered every piece of alien technology that human fighters could steal and was slowly learning how their science worked. Elena discovered that alien weapons used a type of energy that humans had never seen before. The energy came from tiny particles that existed in a different dimension, but could be pulled into normal space with the right equipment. The aliens had mastered this technology thousands of years ago, while humans were still learning to make fire. But Elena was making progress. She had built a device that could detect alien energy signatures from miles away. More importantly, she was learning how to disrupt those energy patterns with focused electromagnetic pulses. It was dangerous work, and 3 of her assistants had died in explosions, but she was getting closer to building real weapons. Jake's resistance cell had grown from 15 people to over 200 in just 3 months. They operated from a network of tunnels and basements that connected most of downtown Detroit. The aliens knew humans were hiding in the ruins, but they had not found the main base yet. The resistance fighters were not all soldiers. Many were teachers, mechanics, doctors, and store clerks who had decided to fight for their freedom. They learned to make bombs from household chemicals and to move through the city without being detected by alien sensors. Food was always a problem. The aliens had destroyed most farms and controlled all food distribution. Resistance fighters survived on canned goods looted from abandoned stores and vegetables grown in hidden underground gardens. Many people were getting sick from poor nutrition, but no one talked about surrender. Amy Foster's reputation spread through the resistance network like wildfire. Young fighters painted her symbol on walls across the world. It was a simple design, of crosshairs over an alien helmet, but it meant that humans were still fighting. The symbol appeared in Berlin, Cairo, Mumbai, and 100 other cities. The aliens responded to the growing resistance with increased brutality. They executed 10 human workers for every alien soldier killed by the resistance. They destroyed entire city blocks when they found evidence of rebel activity. But their harsh measures only created more rebels. Jake received a coded message that changed everything. Dr. Brooks had made contact through a smuggled radio hidden in a food shipment. She had discovered something important about alien technology and needed to meet with resistance leaders from across the continent. The meeting was set for an abandoned factory outside of Cleveland. Jake would have to travel 200 miles, through alien-controlled territory with search patrols and automated sentries hunting for rebels. But Elena's message suggested that she had found a way to fight back that might actually work. Amy Foster agreed to provide sniper cover for the BAO meeting. She had been operating alone for months, but the chance to help Dr. Brooks was worth the risk of working with a larger group. Amy had lost her entire family in the first alien attack on Chicago, and she wanted revenge more than she wanted safety. 3 other resistance leaders confirmed they would attend the meeting. Maria Santos from the Southwest Coalition had been organizing rebel groups from Texas to California. David Kim from the Asian Resistance Network had smuggled himself across the Pacific in a fishing boat. Jennifer Cole from the European Underground had somehow made it across the Atlantic in a stolen submarine. As Jake prepared for the dangerous journey to Cleveland, he thought about his family. His wife and children were in an alien work camp in Kansas, and he had no way to rescue them yet. But if Dr. Brooks had really found a way to hurt the aliens, maybe there was hope for all the families torn apart by the invasion. The night before departure, Jake addressed his fighters in the main tunnel beneath Detroit. He told them that they might have found a way to turn the tide of war. The faces around him showed hope for the first time in months. These people had lost everything, but they had not lost their spirit. Outside, alien ships patrolled the night sky with searchlights that could spot a human from 10 miles away. But deep underground, the resistance was growing stronger. Humans were learning to fight back against enemies who thought they were gods. The war for Earth's freedom was just beginning. The abandoned factory in Cleveland looked like a cemetery of rusted machines and broken dreams. Jake Morrison arrived first. His small team spread out in defensive positions around the building. The November wind cut through holes in the metal walls and made ghostly sounds that reminded everyone of the dead. Dr. Elena Brooks appeared from the shadows like she had materialized from thin air. She carried a heavy bag full of alien technology and wore clothes that were dirty from months of hiding underground. But her eyes still burned with the fierce intelligence that had made her Earth's leading expert on impossible science. Amy Foster took position on a water tower half a mile away. Through her scope, she could see alien patrol ships moving across the horizon like mechanical vultures. She had counted 17 resistance fighters moving toward the factory, but she also detected signs of alien surveillance drones in the area. Maria Santos arrived from the south with 3 vehicles full of fighters from Texas and New Mexico. Her people had driven through alien checkpoints by hiding in a convoy of supply trucks that were supposed to be delivering food to work camps. The aliens had not bothered to search vehicles that were helping their slave operation. Elena wasted no time with greetings. She pulled alien devices from her bag and spread them across a table made from scrap metal. Each piece glowed with soft blue light that made the human skin look pale and sickly. She had been studying this technology for months and had made discoveries that could change everything. "The aliens are not as strong as they want us to believe," Elena said quietly. "Their power comes from fear as much as technology. They have conquered 17 other worlds by breaking the spirit of the people they attack. But humans are different from any species they have faced before." Jake studied the alien equipment and felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold factory air. One device looked like a crystal cube that pulsed with inner light. Another resembled a metallic flower with petals that moved on their own. All of them radiated power that seemed beyond human understanding. Elena explained that alien weapons worked by manipulating something called quantum fields. These fields existed in the empty space between atoms and could be twisted into different shapes to create energy, matter, or forces that defied normal physics. The aliens had learned to control these fields millions of years ago. But Elena had discovered something the aliens did not know about humans. Every person in the Resistance had quantum patterns in their brains that were unlike anything the aliens had encountered before. Human consciousness itself created interference with alien technology in ways that could be measured and used. David Kim, from the Asian Resistance Network, listened with growing excitement. His people had reported that alien equipment sometimes malfunctioned around humans who were extremely angry or determined. Weapons would misfire and shields would flicker when facing humans who refused to give up hope. Jennifer Cole shared similar reports from European resistance cells. Alien guards had trouble controlling human prisoners who maintained strong emotional connections to their families and homes. The most defiant humans seemed to create a field around themselves that disrupted alien sensors and communication devices. Elena pulled out her most important discovery. It was a small device that she had built from stolen alien parts and human electronics. When activated, it created a resonance frequency that could interfere with alien shield generators and weapon systems. The effect was temporary, but it proved that human technology could hurt the invaders. The demonstration was dramatic. Elena placed an alien shield generator on the table and activated it. A shimmering barrier appeared that could stop bullets and energy beams. Then she turned on her resonance device and the shield collapsed like a soap bubble. The alien equipment sparked and went dark. Amy Foster's voice crackled through their radio communicator with an urgent warning. A squadron of alien patrol ships was approaching the factory from the east. The resistance leaders had maybe 10 minutes before they would be discovered and attacked. Elena quickly packed her equipment while the others prepared to scatter. But before they separated, Elena shared the most important part of her discovery. She had located the source of alien command and control. Deep inside their largest ship was a quantum computer that coordinated their entire empire across multiple star systems. If that computer could be destroyed, the alien war machine would collapse. The location was almost impossible to reach. The ship was heavily defended and surrounded by smaller vessels that bristled with weapons. But Elena had found a weakness. The quantum computer was vulnerable to the same resonance frequencies that could disrupt alien shields. A small team with the right equipment could potentially cripple the entire Dominion. Jake volunteered immediately for what everyone knew would be a suicide mission. But Elena stopped him with a shake of her head. She had already been in contact with someone who was in the perfect position to reach the alien computer. Commander Ryan Hayes was alive, and he was already inside the enemy flagship. The story that Elena told was almost impossible to believe. Ryan had not died in the space battle 3 months ago. His ship had been captured and he had been taken prisoner along with dozens of other humans. But instead of being sent to work camps, they had been brought to the alien command ship for interrogation. Ryan had used his time as a prisoner to study alien security systems and map the interior of their flagship. He had also made contact with members of conquered alien species who were secretly working against the Dominion. Not all aliens supported their empire's brutal methods of conquest. The alien species called the Vialesh had been conquered by the Dominion 200 years ago. They looked like tall humans with silver skin and large eyes, but they had never stopped hoping for freedom. Some Vialesh soldiers had been secretly helping human prisoners and feeding information to the resistance. Elena had been communicating with Ryan through a network of Vialesh sympathizers who could send coded messages through the alien communication system. Ryan had learned the location of the quantum computer and was planning an escape attempt that could also destroy the alien command center. But Ryan would need help from the outside. A coordinated attack on alien forces across Earth would draw their attention away from the flagship. Every resistance cell would have to strike at the same time to give Ryan the distraction he needed to reach the quantum computer. The alien patrol ships were getting closer, and the resistance leaders had to leave immediately. But they left with a plan that could free humanity from slavery. In 1 week, every human rebel on Earth would attack alien installations simultaneously, while Ryan attempted to destroy the enemy's central command system. Jake felt hope for the first time since the invasion began. The plan was dangerous and many would die, but it gave humanity a chance to fight back effectively. As he prepared to return to Detroit, he thought about his family in the Kansas work camp. Soon he might be able to rescue them. Amy Foster provided cover as the resistance leaders scattered to their different territories. Through her scope, she watched alien patrol ships search the factory, but find no trace of the meeting. The humans had learned to move like ghosts through the ruins of their own civilization. Elena Brooks disappeared back into the underground tunnels of New York with her precious alien technology. She had 1 week to build enough resonance devices to arm every major resistance cell on Earth. The weapons would be crude and dangerous, but they would level the playing field between humans and their alien oppressors. As Jake drove back toward Detroit through the alien-controlled wasteland that had once been Ohio, he carried Elena's message to every resistance fighter who could receive radio transmissions. In 7 days, humanity would stand up and fight back. The aliens had demanded that humans kneel, but they were about to learn that some species would rather die standing tall. The countdown to Operation Defiance began at midnight on December 7th. Across every continent, resistance fighters checked their weapons and said goodbye to loved ones who might not survive the next 24 hours. This would be humanity's greatest gamble, and everyone knew that failure meant extinction. Jake Morrison stood in the main tunnel beneath Detroit and looked at the faces of 300 fighters who had gathered for the final briefing. These were teachers and mechanics, teenagers and grandparents, people who had never held a weapon before the aliens arrived. But they all shared the same desperate determination to be free. Dr. Elena Brooks had worked miracles in the past week. Her team had built 47 resonance devices from stolen alien technology and smuggled them to resistance cells around the world. The weapons were unstable and dangerous, but they could punch holes through alien shields for a few crucial seconds. Amy Foster had traveled to orbit in a captured alien shuttle with a team of volunteers. Their mission was to attack the communication arrays that connected the alien fleet to their home systems. If they could cut off the enemy's ability to call for reinforcements, Earth might have a chance to win its freedom. The plan was coordinated chaos. At exactly noon Eastern Time, every resistance cell would strike their assigned targets simultaneously. Power plants, communication towers, supply depots, and troop barracks would explode across 6 continents while the aliens tried to figure out what was happening. Commander Ryan Hayes crouched in a ventilation shaft deep inside the alien flagship. He had been planning this moment for months while pretending to be a broken prisoner. Around his waist, he carried 12 small explosive devices that Elena had smuggled to him through sympathetic Vialesh guards. The Vialesh had proven to be unexpected allies. These silver-skinned humanoids had been conquered by the Dominion 2 centuries ago, but they had never stopped resisting. Secret societies of Vialesh freedom fighters existed throughout the alien empire, and they were ready to rise up when humans gave the signal. At exactly noon, the first explosions bloomed across Earth like deadly flowers. Jake's team destroyed an alien power plant in Detroit, while similar attacks hit infrastructure targets in Chicago, Los Angeles, Miami, and dozens of other cities. The carefully coordinated strikes caught the aliens completely by surprise. In London, Jennifer Cole led 200 fighters in an assault on the primary alien communication center for European operations. Her people fought their way through Cathera guards with weapons that Elena had taught them to build from household chemicals and electronic parts. The battle was brutal, but they managed to destroy the facility. Maria Santos coordinated attacks across the American Southwest from a hidden base in the desert outside Phoenix. Her fighters struck alien mining operations that were stripping precious metals from the Earth to feed the Dominion war machine. Explosions lit up the night sky as human rebels proved they would not go quietly into slavery. The aliens responded with swift brutality. Patrol ships raced to every attack site and began bombing anything that moved. Cathera soldiers poured out of their barracks with orders to kill any human they found carrying a weapon. The battle for Earth had finally begun in earnest. But the aliens quickly discovered that this uprising was different from anything they had faced before. Every human fighter seemed to know exactly where to strike for maximum damage. Communication networks that had worked perfectly for months suddenly began malfunctioning when humans got close to them. Amy Foster's team reached the alien communication satellite in Earth orbit and planted Elena's resonance bombs throughout its quantum processing core. When the devices exploded, they sent cascading failures through the entire alien communication network. Suddenly, the Dominion fleet could not coordinate their response to the uprising. The psychological effect was immediate. Alien soldiers who had seemed invincible began making mistakes. Their weapons misfired at crucial moments and their shields failed when they needed them most. For the first time since the invasion, humans were winning battles against their oppressors. Ryan Hayes used the confusion to begin his infiltration of the alien command center. The Vailesh guards, who were secretly loyal to the Resistance, had disabled key security systems along his route. But Ryan still had to move carefully through corridors filled with enemies who would kill him instantly if he was discovered. The quantum computer that controlled the Dominion Empire was located in the deepest part of the flagship. It was a massive device that looked like a crystal cathedral with walls that pulsed with strange energies. The computer could process information from 1,000 star systems simultaneously and coordinate the movements of millions of alien ships. Elena had explained that the computer was vulnerable to resonance attacks, but only if the bombs were placed at specific points where the quantum fields were most concentrated. Ryan had memorized the locations during months of careful observation, but he would have only minutes to plant all 12 devices before the security systems detected him. Back on Earth, the Resistance was paying a terrible price for their attacks. Alien orbital weapons began targeting human population centers with beams of energy that could vaporize entire city blocks. Millions of people died in the first hour of fighting, but the survivors kept attacking alien targets with suicidal determination. Jake, Morrison's fighters, had captured an alien weapons depot in Detroit and were using stolen energy rifles to attack Cathera patrols throughout the city. The alien weapons were designed for creatures with 4 arms, but humans learned to adapt them quickly. Soon Detroit echoed with the sound of energy beams cutting through alien armor. The uprising spread beyond Earth as news of human resistance reached other conquered worlds. Vailesh rebels began sabotaging Dominion facilities throughout their home system while other enslaved species rose up against their alien masters. The empire that had seemed unshakable was suddenly fighting wars on dozens of fronts. Ryan reached the quantum computer chamber and began placing his explosive devices. Each bomb had to be positioned precisely according to Elena's calculations, or the resonance effect would fail. Sweat ran down his face as he worked because he knew that detection meant death not just for him, but for everyone on Earth. The computer seemed to sense his presence as he attached the final bomb. Alarms began sounding throughout the flagship, and security doors started closing to trap him in the chamber. Ryan had 30 seconds to arm all 12 devices and get to minimum safe distance before they exploded. But Ryan made a choice that surprised everyone, including himself. Instead of trying to escape, he stayed with the bombs to make sure they detonated properly. He transmitted a final message to Jake Morrison and the Resistance Network. "Tell my family I kept my promise. Tell Earth that we never surrendered." The explosion that destroyed the quantum computer sent shockwaves through the entire alien fleet. Ships that had been in perfect formation suddenly drifted helplessly as their coordination systems failed. The Dominion war machine that had conquered 17 star systems ground to a halt in the space of seconds. On Earth, human fighters watched in amazement as alien technology began failing all around them. Shields flickered and died while weapons refused to fire. Cathera soldiers who had seemed superhuman suddenly looked confused and vulnerable. The balance of power was shifting toward humanity for the first time since the invasion. Jake Morrison received Ryan's final transmission and felt tears run down his face. They had lost a hero, but they had gained something more valuable. For the first time in 8 months, humans were winning. The aliens had underestimated the one thing that no technology could defeat: the refusal of free people to accept slavery. As night fell across the ruins of human civilization, the resistance prepared for the counterattack that would surely come. But they faced it with hope instead of despair. The Dominion had demanded that humanity kneel, but humans had chosen to stand and fight. Now the galaxy would learn what happened when you tried to break the spirit of Earth. The destruction of the alien quantum computer changed everything. Within hours of Ryan Hayes' sacrifice, Dominion forces across the galaxy found themselves cut off from their central command structure. Ships that had operated in perfect coordination for centuries suddenly drifted without purpose while their crews tried to understand what had happened. Jake Morrison stood on the roof of a recaptured building in Detroit and watched alien ships falling from the sky. Without their quantum guidance systems, the massive vessels could not maintain flight and crashed into the ruins of the city like metallic meteors. Each impact shook the ground and sent clouds of dust into the air. Dr. Elena Brooks emerged from her underground laboratory for the first time in months. Her resonance weapons had proven more effective than anyone had dared to hope. Not only could they disrupt alien shields and weapons, but they seemed to interfere with the aliens' ability to think clearly when the devices were used at close range. The Cathera soldiers who had seemed so terrifying were revealed to be far less intelligent than they appeared. Without constant guidance from their quantum computers, they made basic tactical mistakes and often attacked their own allies by accident. The invasion force that had conquered Earth in days was collapsing. In confusion, Amy Foster coordinated the assault on the remaining alien strongholds from a captured command post. Her team of former prisoners had taken control of an entire alien battlecruiser and were using it to attack other ships in the Dominion fleet. The aliens had never faced enemies who could turn their own technology against them, but the cost of victory was enormous. Entire cities lay in radioactive ruins where alien orbital weapons had struck during the uprising. Millions of humans were dead, and many more were dying from radiation poisoning and starvation. The planet that had once been blue and green was now brown and gray with patches of glowing destruction. Reports came in from around the world as human resistance fighters reclaimed their territories. Maria Santos had liberated most of the American Southwest and was moving east toward the Great Plains. Jennifer Cole reported that European resistance cells had taken control of London, Berlin, Paris, and Rome. David Kim announced that Asian fighters had recaptured Tokyo and were advancing toward Beijing. The aliens still had significant forces on Earth, but they were trapped without reinforcements or coordination. Some Cathera units fought to the death while others surrendered when they realized their situation was hopeless. A few groups of aliens actually requested asylum and offered to share their technology in exchange for protection from other Dominion forces. Helena made the most important discovery during interrogation of captured aliens. The Dominion Empire was far more fragile than it appeared. Most of their conquered species were held in line by fear and the promise of brutal retaliation against any rebellion. With their central command system destroyed, uprisings were breaking out on worlds throughout their territory. The Vilesh had declared independence from the Dominion and were attacking alien installations throughout their home system. The Thrax, a warrior species that had been enslaved 50 years ago, had seized control of 3 star systems and were advancing toward the Dominion capital world. Dozens of other species were following humanity's example and fighting for their freedom. Jake received a message that made his hands shake with emotion. His wife and children had been found alive in the ruins of the Kansas work camp. They were injured and traumatized, but they were free. Rescue teams were bringing them to the safety of liberated Detroit along with thousands of other survivors. The reunion took place in a hospital that had been built in the basement of a destroyed shopping mall. Jake held his family and felt tears run down his face as he realized that the nightmare was finally ending. His wife Sarah looked older and thinner, but her eyes still held the strength that had made him fall in love with her 20 years ago. Elena worked frantically to reverse engineer alien technology before the remaining Dominion forces could destroy it. She had teams of scientists studying everything from their energy weapons to their faster-than-light communication systems. Human technology was advancing by decades every day as they learned from their former oppressors. The most important breakthrough came when Elena figured out how alien space travel worked. Their ships used quantum tunnels to move instantly between distant points in space. With this technology, humans could travel to other star systems and help liberate the worlds that were still under Dominion control. Amy Foster volunteered to lead the first human expedition to leave the solar system. Her target was a Valesh colony world that was still under siege by Dominion forces. The mission would be dangerous, but Amy had spent months learning to pilot captured alien ships, and she was eager to take the fight to the enemy. The liberation of Earth took 6 months to complete. The last Dominion stronghold fell when human fighters stormed the fortress that had been built on the ruins of New York City. The Cathera commander who surrendered there told his captors that he had never seen anything like human determination in 2 centuries of conquest. As Earth began to heal from the devastation of war, humans started reaching out to other worlds that needed help. Elena's technology allowed them to build ships that could travel between stars in days instead of years. Within a year, human rescue fleets were operating in a dozen different star systems. The liberation of other worlds followed the same pattern. Every time, human ships would arrive to find enslaved populations that had given up hope of freedom. But when the humans began fighting alongside local resistance movements, everything changed. Species that had been broken by centuries of oppression suddenly rediscovered their courage. Jake Morrison was promoted to Admiral of the new Human Liberation Fleet. He commanded ships that were built from a combination of human engineering and captured alien technology. His flagship carried weapons that could destroy entire Dominion battle groups and shields that could withstand attacks from orbital bombardment platforms. The war against the Dominion Empire lasted 5 years. Human-led, coalition forces fought battles in star systems that had been enslaved for millennia. Each victory inspired more uprisings as word spread that the seemingly invincible empire could be defeated by species that refused to surrender their freedom. Elena Brooks became the director of the Galactic Research Institute, an organization dedicated to sharing advanced technology with all free species. Her resonance weapons had evolved into tools that could heal damaged planets and restore worlds that had been strip-mined by Dominion industrial machines. The final battle of the war took place in orbit around the Dominion capital world. The aliens had gathered their remaining fleets for a last desperate stand, but they faced a coalition of 50 different species that had all learned to fight from human example. The battle lasted 3 days and ended with the complete surrender of the Dominion government. Amy Foster led the occupation force that landed on the alien capital. She found a world that was dying from environmental destruction caused by millions of years of industrial exploitation. The Dominion leaders had poisoned their own planet in their quest for galactic conquest. The peace treaty that ended the war established the Galactic Federation, an alliance of free worlds dedicated to preventing any single species from dominating others. Humans were elected to lead the Federation, not because they were the strongest, but because they had proven that freedom was worth any sacrifice. 10 years after the invasion, Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of a space station orbiting Earth. The planet below was green and blue again, its scars healed by alien technology that humans had learned to use for creation instead of destruction. Cities had been rebuilt and the population was growing as people looked toward the future with hope. The memorial to Ryan Hayes was visible from orbit, a crystal spire that reached toward the stars. The inscription at its base was simple but powerful. He kept his promise. Humanity never knelt. Similar monuments stood on 100 worlds where humans had helped other species win their freedom. Elena approached Jake with a report about the latest discoveries from the Galactic Survey missions. Human ships had found evidence of ancient civilizations that had resisted the Dominion millions of years ago. The galaxy was full of ruins left by species that had chosen to fight rather than surrender, proving that the desire for freedom was universal. As Jake looked out at the stars, he thought about the choice that humanity had made when the aliens demanded their surrender. They could have knelt and lived as slaves, but instead they chose to stand tall and fight for their freedom. That choice had changed not just Earth, but the entire galaxy. The Dominion had tried to break human spirits with overwhelming force, but they had made a critical mistake. They assumed that showing superior technology would make humans give up hope. Instead, it only proved to humans that their oppressors could be beaten if people were willing to pay the price for freedom. Now, human children learned in schools alongside young aliens from dozens of different worlds. They studied together, played together, and grew up believing that cooperation was stronger than conquest. The Federation that had grown from human resistance was building a galaxy where no species would ever have to kneel to another. Jake smiled as he watched Earth turn slowly beneath the stars.